Hello there, Internet. I am Dan, and I'm going to talk about video game accessibility. So first of all, I'm going to talk about relationship between accessibility and difficulty. Secondly, I will talk about useful model that I find best suited for video game accessibility, and also for best suited for those who want a more challenging or harder experience. After that, I'm going to address the arguments against accessibility. I'm going to address arguments like developers shouldn't compromise their vision for accessibility, or the game is meant to be challenging and hard, etc. So let's talk about relationship between difficulty and accessibility. Some people think that game difficulty and accessibility are not related. Now this is a misconception, friends. Let me explain. Consider a game with one difficulty and call it intended or vision difficulty. If it is unbalanced, some people will be alienated or detached or simply not enjoy the game. If it is balanced, less people will be alienated or detached or may find the game off-putting. Now consider that the developers balanced the game but also added a few other options like easier options and harder options, and in this way, due to balanced difficulty and availability of options, least amount of people will be alienated. So you see that less and less people get alienated when developers do a good job balancing the game on one mode and just offering alternative options. This is the concept of accessibility. Accessibility means addition of options or features which include more and more people and not exclude anyone. Accessibility never means lowering the quality of product in order to include people. In fact, lowering the quality of product can alienate people or let people down. Now you can clearly see that more difficulty levels leads to slightly more accessible game rather than just one difficulty. I use the word slight here because I think there is better model than adding different difficulty levels. Let's talk about the model that I think is pretty good. Consider a game with difficulty levels. Generally one of them is the most balanced one, while the others are made by tweaking numbers here and there to make the game harder or easier. Now the problem with this one is it is not clear if the numbers, parameters and tweaks set by the developers in levels other than the balanced one are set with precise balancing. Maybe the parameters set by the devs either make the game too hard or too easy for people, and people can still run to more accessibility issues compared to difficulty model of a Celeste-like game. This flaw can be addressed by just having one difficulty, which is the most balanced one or the intended one, and then just adding assist/cheat or custom mode. You can also call it manual user control mode. That sounds nice. In this mode, allow the player to adjust basic parameters like player health, damage, enemy health, damage, etc. You can also allow speed control. Also add game speed control where the user can decrease or increase the game speed. You allow user to turn on or off God mode, infinite stamina mode, etc. The more custom options, the better. But make sure that custom/assist/cheat options do not crash or freeze the game. That's the important thing. So let's talk about the arguments. The first argument: developers shouldn't compromise their vision for accessibility. The argument implies that devs would give up or lose their intended/vision mode when they add optional features like cheats or assist options. Some of the old games which featured just one mode or one difficulty also had optional cheats or optional features. For example, GTA Vice City, GTA San Andreas, etc. The intention of developers of Vice City was to make a living, breathing open world with story-oriented missions. They were successful. User average, critics average, sales of the game show that Vice City was a successful game. Now cheats were something optional and hidden things, and considering how the world generally behaved in Vice City without cheats, it was clear that developers focused on open world realism at that time, and cheats were something completely non-intended or non-vision optional features, and people only used cheats when they wanted to play Vice City in non-intended way. This is the important point. Vice City can still be played without cheats. They were never mandatory or requirement, and in fact hidden. This shows that optional cheats or assist features in Vice City never hurt the game or intentions of the developer. Another recent example is a game called Celeste, where the devs clearly mention that assist mode is a non-intended and challenge is the core part or major part of the game. The assist mode in Celeste in fact showed that developers did not compromise the vision, considering developers stated that the challenge in Celeste is balanced and extremely fine-tuned, and developers cared about their precious design. They just added optional feature or optional assist/cheat mode. Many simulation games, which are very hard games, offer cheats or at least assists to adjust difficulty level. For example, Assetto Corsa, GCS World, R-Factor 2, Euro Truck Simulator 2. Their main intention is to simulate the real-world activities, and they succeed in that, but they still offer some additional features or accessibility features so that player can adjust the game and enjoy the game in his or her own way. Addition of options or optional modes do not hurt the original or default mode. Now you can see the boxes that I made. The menu box shows that the player is in the main menu. The player can choose between the default mode or the custom mode. The default mode is the mode which is intended or recommended mode by the developers. The custom mode is the non-intended or assist or accessibility mode, or you can also call it a cheat mode. Now you can see that these two boxes of default mode and custom mode, these two boxes are separate. The default mode leads to a different path, while the custom mode leads to a different path. The existence of default mode or the default route or the default path does not affect the existence of custom mode or the custom path. These are two separate different paths. Now here's the thing. Now some people might say that default mode, if a person finds default mode too difficult, he'll just switch to custom mode. And I would say it depends. For example, some people who really want to complete the game on the intended or the recommended or the hard mode, that is the default mode, then the player will of course choose the default mode to experience the developer's vision, because he or she or they care about developer's vision. This is the important point that I'm trying to make, that if someone really cares about the default mode or hard mode that he wants to complete it, he will complete the game on this mode, on this route. Now there is a possibility that someone just is not able to complete the game on default mode, or someone is not able to enjoy the game on default mode. The person has the choice to to choose custom mode. Now you might say that if custom mode didn't exist, then the person would be able to complete the default mode or something like that. You might say that. Some people might say that the existence of custom mode means that people can take the easy way out. Now I want to say something here. If custom mode didn't exist, the person who is playing on default mode has two choices. Either he defeats or beats the game or completes the game, or he can give up since he is not able to complete the game. Now, some people say, well, with enough hard work, with enough smart work, with enough passion, or with enough with enough hard work, I would say it's hard work. With enough hard work, you can defeat the bosses or complete this mode. But I would say sometimes it is not like that. Sometimes people are not able to beat the game. Sometimes they want another options so that even if they cannot beat the game, they enjoy it in their own manner. Now if custom mode does not exist, if custom mode is not there, then the player will simply give up because the game is just too hard, and that is a possibility. For example, if a person has physical or mental disability, that is a possibility. Disability ranges, there are ranges from mild to severe, and that's the thing that I want to talk about. Some people can complete default mode with ease, while some people will find default mode moderately difficult, while some people some people may find the default mode hard, while some people will find default mode extremely hard, and then there are some people who may just find the default mode impossible. That's the thing that I'm talking about, and that is why custom mode is good. It's helpful. That's the thing that I'm talking about here. Second argument, we see that the game is meant to be challenging or hard. Yes, I would say that's true, and that is what intended mode or recommended mode is there for. It is the mode made by developers and finely tuned by them. The mode will not go anywhere or will not be removed by other options like cheats or assist features. Celeste, for example, developers of Celeste clearly stated that their game is meant to be challenging and hard, yet the optional features are there if someone wants alternate experience or has problem with the current level of challenge. Considering that challenge difficulty is a relative term, challenge or difficulty is a relative term, it is in fact a logical thing to add certain options so that some players who may find the difficulty of putting or not right may simply edit some parameters to get the just right difficulty, as I stated. Cheat/custom mode should enable players to edit basic parameters. Examples of games that let you do this: Mount & Blade Warband, rFactor 2, Assetto Corsa, DCS World, Celeste. All these games are brilliant games that offer options for players. I also see this argument. Should horror movies change scenes or books change words? So the problem with this argument is it compares an interactive form of entertainment to a non-interactive one. Movie directors or writers of a book cannot change their works Movie directors or writers of a book cannot change their works or cut scenes because it would be much more time consuming to do that, while in video games assist/cheat options can be easily added. For example, Uncharted 4 and Evil Within 2. Uncharted 4 and Evil Within 2 added these options after a while, and they were pretty easy to add. Moreover, in movies you can skip scenes that you don't like. Movies still progresses whether the viewer watches it or not. Similarly, in books the reader can skip words or pages, and of course the reader may not understand some things after that, but still it technically can be done. On the other hand, video games require user input. Video games can literally stop the player from progressing in the game if the player is not able to do certain things in a certain way. Movies and books cannot do that since they aren't interactive, and there is no winning or losing in books and movies. There are no objectives or things to be done in books and movies to progress. While people can be barred from playing, seeing, or experiencing further content in video games because of difficulty. Also, I would point out that books and movies are made accessible. Movies are made accessible through subtitles, audio descriptions, assistive listening devices. Theaters offer them. Accessibility apps and smartphones. Books are made accessible through braille books, audiobooks, e-books, etc. Books also offer publisher notes with them. Some of the books offer publisher notes with them. I also see this argument about time and resources that are lost in adding these cheats or assist options or features. So let's talk about this argument. There are some options which might be hard to add for a certain developer depending on the game engine and programming knowledge. For example, game speed control might not be easy to add, but considering big developers who have manpower, money, and resources, they can easily add such features in updates or make them already available from the day one. Examples: Uncharted 4, Evil Within 2. Moreover, if we look at the history of cheats and console commands, we can know that these are debugging tools. Developers just need to let the player access these tools. Considering how easily mods are made, trainers are made, it is fine to assume that cheats or assist features in games are generally easy to add. Even indie devs can do that because the debugging tools are required in development of low budget and basic games. I do not know if there are games made without debugging tools or without testing. Celeste is an indie game that added game speed control in its assist menu. It also added some cheats which are nice and fun, and I enjoy those cheats in Celeste. Fifth argument. People say that watch let's plays videos of the game played by someone else. So let's talk about this one. First of all, watching is not playing. Playing involves active interaction and passive interaction. You lose both when you watch and not play. First, let's try to understand what active interaction and passive interaction means. I will make it simple to understand. Active interaction. When you press a button, your character, controlled by controller, does something or basically acts. Active interaction is the most basic form of interaction required for something to be considered a video game. Passive interaction. When the world reacts to your character and its action. For example, when an enemy sees you, he or she or they attack you. This is passive interaction. When your character's health reduces when hit by an enemy, this is passive interaction. Or when you hit an enemy, the enemy reacts and its health is reduced, this is passive interaction. This means the things like health, stamina, ammo, interactions, these interactions are passive. You shoot one bullet, you lose one bullet. This is passive interaction. For complex games like FPS games, third-person games, or open world action RPG games, and generally AAA games like Dark Souls, Sekiro, RDR2, God of War, Devil May Cry 5, etc. Both active interaction and passive interaction are generally complex, and the combination of both makes the games overall complex or hard to make with a lot of things going on. Now in complex AAA games, or even indie games that are complex, have things like animations, response time, physics, movement system, reaction of enemies to player movement, RPG interactions, dialogue choices, and of course story lore setting, etc. Using cheats/assists in these complex games will reduce passive interaction because challenge and difficulty will be massively lowered for normally abled people, or slightly lowered for people with disability, considering people with disabilities face extra challenge already. But still, it would not reduce the passive interactions to minimum unless the game is very simple. I'm not talking about game being easy, I'm talking about simple game, for example like World's Hardest Game, which is made by Cool Math Games. You can play it online. This game only involves movement, but even then game speed control might help some people get through that who have some cognitive disabilities. When even abled people use cheats/assists, there are reasons for that, like someone might be interested in active interaction with some passive interaction, like might want to become a god in the game, feel powerful or gifted. And then there are people who have impairment problems, who might find cheating in some bosses or using cheats for some bosses to be useful. Cheats/assists can also be used as reducing challenge from impossible range to a hard range. When you watch, you're not in control of your character. You know you are watching and not interacting. You are not the one moving the analog stick on the controller, not pressing keys on keyboard, not moving the mouse to control your character. At least when activating cheats, you still do not lose the whole active interaction and lose some of the passive interactions. So this is important, friends. The sixth argument. The game already features easy/cheat/assist mode. It is called XYZ. This is the argument which generally Dark Souls players make. For example, when people say that there is already easy mode, it is called summoning. But in offline, summoning can increase the boss health, and in online, it is not clear who you are summoning unless you have friends online. Moreover, considering this is online, it means server issues, lagging can happen. Maybe the good coordination wouldn't be good. Maybe the player you summoned is too good that you are just watching and you lost active interaction. Or maybe the player you summoned might start trolling. It is unnecessarily inconvenient. Another example would be telling the player to use weapons that are a little more powerful than the others or little more fast. But again, this still isn't as direct or clear as assist or cheat features. Seventh argument. Game plays itself when you lower the challenge or use assists/cheats. This one implies that when you use cheat/assist to reduce or remove challenge, some passive interaction, you lose the whole active and passive interaction, which is incorrect. And as I already defined active and passive interactions and elaborated about them, I think it is easier for you to understand the rough similarity between the seventh argument and the fifth argument. I'm going to address a few arguments from a video by Never Knows Best. He made a video called No Game Needs an Easy Mode. So that is interesting video. In the video, the person states that there is no evidence that existence of easy mode has or had not hurt some games in the past. Therefore, there shouldn't be easy mode in Sekiro or Soulsborne games. So let's talk about this one. Well, this is not a good argument. Let me explain. It is not a sound argument. Some of the people shown in the video argued that since there is no evidence that existence of easy mode has hurt the games, therefore we believe that existence of easy mode will not hurt Sekiro. This is a rational argument. This is a rational position. This is a good argument. Because games were not and still are not criticized for existence of optional modes or offering of optional modes. Some of them were kind of criticized for being too easy on easy mode or being too hard on hard mode, but the existence of easy mode or hard mode in games was and is not criticized. It's about existence, you see. It is how they are implemented that was or is criticized by people, saying that since there is no evidence or sufficient evidence that existence of X hurt Y's, therefore I do not accept the claim that existence of X hurt Y's, and existence of X shouldn't hurt Y1 when Y1 belongs to Ys. This is scientific and logical approach. This approach above is followed in law and investigation. This approach is similar to innocent until proven guilty. But saying that there is no evidence or sufficient evidence that existence of X has not hurt Y's, therefore I accept that existence of X hurt Y's and X should hurt Y1 when Y1 belongs to Ys. This is unscientific and illogical approach. This is not followed in law and investigation. This approach is similar to guilty until proven innocent. Let's see some other things that the person stated in his video. The person states that easy mode will fragment the community and the discussions. Experiences will be different. Narrative will be diluted by just existence of easy mode or optional mode. This argument was made from 435. I will start from the last sentence. There are games like Resident Evil 2 with strong narrative focus and feature difficulty settings. When I played the game on hardcore in RE2, I did not feel that narrative was diluted by existence of assisted difficulty that I didn't play on. When I play on hardcore mode, I know that I'm not going to select the assisted mode, and vice versa. Similarly, when I do not want to activate cheats, I do not activate cheats. Saying that narrative will be diluted because existence of another options that you clearly are not going to use is a bad argument. And now let's talk about experiences will be different. In video games, especially complex games like AAA games like Dark Souls, Sekiro, no experience is the same unless you think that all Sekiro players have same abilities, skills, IQs and personalities, and they all beat the enemies with the exact same strategies, etc. Moreover, if experiences will be different due to existence of options, what is wrong with that? Isn't one of the defining characteristics of video games is variety of experiences, freedom of interaction? That's important things in video games. And now let's talk about this. Easy mode will fragment the community and discussions. I'm going to quote Ian Hamilton here. It means that people will not be able to have discussions with each other as easily because they will not have had the same experience. The answer to that is that just as many people will have had the same experience as before, but other people can also join the community who have had similar enough experiences to still have good conversations. Moreover, I still do not know how fragment the community and discussion is an argument against cheat, assist, or easy mode in a single player game. I mean, God of War community is still doing well. Devil May Cry series is still doing well, Assetto Corsa's community is still doing fine and well, and these games offer different options, different difficulty modes, or maybe cheats. Considering these games and many past games, I do not think that addition of cheats or assists would hurt the community of a single player game, because there is no evidence that cheats or assist mode ever hurt the community in single player games in the past or until now. I do not think the existence of cheats hurt the game. Simple as that. So let's talk about the 10th argument. In the video, the person states that players will be tempted to use assist/cheat/easy mode and ruin their experience. Therefore, easy/assist/cheat mode should not be added or shouldn't be added. I still don't know how is lack of resistance for temptation for some people is argument against accessibility in video games. The argument is like, some people will be tempted to use assist options, therefore assist options shouldn't exist and the people looking for assists should do something else. He also states that temptation is real. Well, okay, it is a real problem. Impulse control disorder is a real problem, but there is a treatment for that. You can check the link in the description. Now, since we do not know how many Soulsborne or Sekiro players have impulse control disorder, and we also don't have rough data or estimates, we cannot just assume a lot of players have this mental illness. This is one mental illness. I would also like to point out that this is one mental illness, while there are other forms of cognitive impairments and physical impairments which literally stop the player from beating the game or progressing through the game. Options will simply make things easier for them. Which is like comparing one mental illness of temptation versus all impairments which stop the player from progressing in the game. And this particular mental illness has treatments and ways to deal with. Some impairments cannot be dealt with. For example, low IQ or Down syndrome. If a person has a temptation to sit on a wheelchair, we can't just remove wheelchairs from the house since one person's temptation. But considering how many other games with strong narrative focus and even difficulty focus were not hurt by assists or cheats, and since there is no evidence that assists/cheats were or are ever criticized for their existence in other games, therefore it is safe to accept that assists or cheats are not going to hurt Sekiro or Soulsborne games. Single player experience, I'm talking about single player. So let's talk about the 11th argument. In the video, the person says that find different hobbies if you don't feel a sense of pride and accomplishment, because you're missing out. The person says that after time 758. Let's talk about this. Sense of pride and accomplishment is a feeling. Well, there are other feelings too that make me play and like games. For example, excitement, surprise, satisfaction of response time, satisfaction due to animations, satisfaction due to physics, satisfaction due to control of character, satisfaction due to controlling the character in different world, and satisfaction due to immersion, relaxation, or laughter, or interacting with AI and smart NPCs. There are games like Euro Truck Simulator, which are very fun, relaxing games. I don't feel a sense of pride and accomplishment of Soulsborne games or Sekiro in Euro Truck Simulator 2, but I still play it because it is immersive, relaxing, and fun. Maybe there's something fun driving a truck during the rain while listening to your favorite songs or radio podcasts. People find enjoyment in different things and for different reasons. Saying that someone should change their hobbies or particular interest in games because he or she or they doesn't feel pride and accomplishment is an odd advice. I sometimes played Soulsborne games offline with cheats or trainers on PC. It's fun because I felt like a god. I like that feeling. And maybe some people like that feeling. Moreover, someone may find something impossible can edit some parameters and make the game hard but challenging and get the feeling of pride and accomplishment. Options like cheats and assists also help people to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment if they feel that the default difficulty is too easy. In the video Never Knows Best also talked about how it is elitist to judge someone else's pride and accomplishment. And okay, I agree with that. We shouldn't judge how someone feels pride and accomplishment in games, but this still does not mean that we shouldn't add optional assists or cheat modes in video games. He also stated he and other players want to preserve the difficulty, and my response to that is, okay, no one is taking away or replacing the original fine-tuned, balanced, or intended difficulty of Soulsborne and Sekiro-like games. People are simply requesting other options to either mess around, or if they have some problems, then maybe use assists or cheats to get the challenge from impossible level to a hard level. It is really a win-win situation. There are also claims in other videos, not his video, that the addition of options wouldn't solve all problems or options will not be the solutions for all problems. And okay, but still the addition of options will at least solve a few problems, if not all. And this is how we make things better and help people. No one states that assists or cheats would solve all the problems, but they will solve a few of them. And then we can also try to add other options and in a different manner that can help people and solve more problems. I mean, it is simply logical that of course existence of options does not mean all problems will be solved. To solve different problems and help different people, we add more options or use hardware features, and maybe if medical science is able to produce a good equipment for solving certain problems, then we use that too. Adding options wouldn't make everyone play and progress in the game, but it surely would let more people to be able to play and progress in the game. This is what accessibility means. Let's talk about 12th argument. Use hardware like adaptive controllers, etc. to play. Don't ask for software options. This argument is not from any video, but I read this argument on some of the forums. Now let's talk about this. Hardware like adaptive controllers are surely helpful and brilliant things. Getting hardware like adaptive controllers, etc. cost money. It is basically slightly expensive for customers or consumers to get the game and also get the hardware to play and progress through the game. While developers can simply add options or optional features like cheats or assists in the game without losing money or resources. It will take a little time to add options in the game, but still it is slightly more consumer friendly and can make the developers earn respect and loyalty. One of the reasons a CD Projekt Red is loved is because of their pro-consumer stance and consumer-friendly attitude. And it is still not clear if just hardware would be enough. Therefore, both hardware and software options can simply be more helpful. And one more thing that I like to add here. It is interesting that people have no problem with adaptive controllers but have problems with in-game assists, cheats, or easy mode. This is not a good thing because if you think about it, hardware like adaptive controllers still technically make the game easier for people who use it. Let me explain. Without adaptive controllers, aiming and shooting in FPS games with normal console controllers is not as easy or comfortable or fast as aiming and shooting with keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse players have advantages over PS and Xbox controller players in FPS games. Different game genres have different ease or comfort with different controllers. Adaptive controllers are made to ease and give comfort to the impaired player while playing the game. It is safe to assume that theoretically, adaptive controllers do make the game easier. Argument 30. If this person can do it, so can you. For example, a quadriplegic gamer defeated a boss, therefore you can do it too. I saw that quadriplegic gamer video and I am happy that he was able to beat the game. Now let's think about it. Quadriplegia ranges from mild to severe. There are many other forms of impairments. Cognitive and physical impairments can also range from mild to severe. There are diseases too, which can make the condition worse. If one quadriplegic gamer is able to complete the game does not mean a lot of other people will be able to complete the game with different disabilities and impairments. Broly legs and half coordinated also are able to beat the games despite their conditions. This does not mean a lot of different people with disabilities or impairments will be able to do it too. In fact, both Broly legs and half coordinated stated that they are not the bar to judge other disabilities. They have acknowledged this. Now another person with disability called Crib Daddy stated that gamers don't need easy mode or other options. Now again, if we think about this, Crib Daddy himself uses controllers that he prefers. And as I stated earlier, that some controllers can ease, comfort the player and the journey. It, it does make the game easier to play for people who use these controllers like adaptive controllers or frag effects, etc. And again, the disability of Crib Daddy isn't a bar that other disabled people should be judged. As I stated above, one person with certain disability doing good doesn't mean other people with different disability will do good too. Argument 14th. Some non-disabled people are using people with disabilities as a shield or hiding behind people with disabilities to get easy/cheat mode in video games. Let's talk about this one. This point is kind of accusing people for selfish intentions, when in fact the intentions of theirs might not be selfish. Consider this. There are people who are not of LGBT community, but they still support the non-discrimination and rights for LGBT community. Are they hiding behind them or using LGBT people as a shield? No. You can clearly see that the interests are mutual here, and these interests are interests for human rights, and people get along because of similar interests. There are people with disabilities who are happy about assists/cheat options in Celeste, and there are a few people with impairments who would love to have assists/cheats in Sekiro, and this is helpful for people like me too. So you can see that interests are similar. I can say that it is solidarity. Let me show you some tweets. These are some more tweets. You can pause the video to read them. So you have now seen a few people being happy about Celeste's assist/cheat mode, and a few people requesting for such options in Sekiro. I support the idea that games should have customization options, as many as the developer can add. And of course, single-player games should have toggle-level assist/cheat/custom modes, like in Celeste or like in Evil Within 2. Both are brilliant, amazing games. Modding support and modding tools are another great thing that a developer can do on PC. There should be options like color-blind filters or color editing, audio cues, etc. Mark Brown made many brilliant videos about designing for disability in video games without hurting or compromising anything. 15th argument. Games are not for everyone. Go do/play something else. The first part. Some people generally say this to counter the accessibility concept that games are for everyone. When accessibility advocates/supporters or experts say that games are for everyone, it does not mean that all games will appeal to everyone, or people will be forced to like it, or developers will be forced to make people like it. It just means that there are options for people who may not be able to progress or beat or play the game according to their own enjoyment. Accessibility, as I stated earlier, means addition of options and letting the players customize the experience. And yes, the experience will not be the intended one after customization. But the thing is, some people will at least be able to play and enjoy the game with those features without hurting anyone else. Assist/cheats existed during GameShark, Game Genie days. At that time people didn't criticize them for their existence, and for PS3 there is, or maybe was, a great website called Codemasters who made custom cheats for PS3 games. No one really hated that, because these were optional things that didn't bother those who didn't need/want them. And when people oppose existence of options, this means people are opposing the things that will help or be useful for others. This means that people are literally opposing optional things that other people will enjoy. And this means you are opposing someone's way to enjoy themselves when it doesn't hurt you. And this is wrong. And that is why saying that games are not for everyone is gatekeeping, because the point of saying this sentence is to oppose accessibility/assist options. Now the second part. Well, I think it is pretty clear that sentence telling people to do something else which isn't helpful, and it does nothing but discourage people. And directly telling someone to go away is of course rude. I mean, the second part is just being mean. Argument 16th. Life is hard. Deal with it. Don't expect people to help you. For some people life can be easier or harder, but since for some people life is harder, we are trying to make the world good enough so that lives of these people get easier by helping them. The statement that life is hard and deal with it is not an argument against accessibility features or options. It never was and it never will be. Some people cannot live without help. Some people cannot do things because of accidental permanent injury or genetic problem. Helping them is good, moral and right thing to do. Nature, luck can be nice and punishing at times, and we need to help each other during punishing times to live and survive. This is kind thing to do. Saying that this is life, toughen up, deal with it, etc. are not things that make life easier or helpful. This is a movie dialogue and it is not realistic. This happens in movies, not in real life. In real life, you cannot toughen up and deal with some problems without family or without medical help or without support from experts who study these things or without money. And sometimes even experts fail to help and people suffer and die or become miserable because of that. And that is a tragedy. We are helping each other by progressing technology and finding things to reduce such tragedies. Personal opinion. It is sad to see that some of the big influential YouTubers are opposing the idea of assist/cheat modes in single-player game like Sekiro. It is interesting that you could make Sekiro and Soulsborne games artificially harder by going through NG+ or using particular object which makes the enemies deal more damage and hurt you more, and the same people like this feature. But when some people ask about making the game easier artificially, they are told games are not for everyone, go do something else. If this isn't what gatekeeping is, I don't know what is. Soulsborne, Sekiro and other From Software games rely on challenge, but we also know that other games rely on challenge too. I mean, in game design, challenge is one of the core part in video game development. Every game is supposed to challenge the person, but yet some games just offer hidden features just to have some mindless fun, or maybe use them if you feel like these features are enjoyable. Resident Evil 2 is a survival horror game, and the challenge is also its main core parts, and it offers difficulty adjustment. Devil May Cry series also has optional stuff. All 2D and 3D fighting games rely on challenge too, and they offer features for customization. Moreover, when non-disabled people support assist/cheats/accessibility features, they are still logically supporting addition of options or supporting accessibility for people with cognitive impairment. And that ultimately leads to helping people. Thank you for watching the video, friends.